because I don't have a lot of models that show the seminal vesicles, right? And so it doesn't,
yeah,
it kind of looks
the
like
prostate,
a bug. An insect. It looks like an insect. Okay, so this is obviously the bladder, right?
Yeah.
And if you look inside, that's going to help you remember because there's the prostate also right below it. But I don't take it apart like this. I mean, I don't care if you do that while you're taking the lap rat to go. Just snap it back together. Here's the prostate. You know that these have to be the ureters, right? Because look, they're going right into the bladder. And the ductus deferens does not do that, right? So the blue one is the ductus deferens. This is the seminal vesicle. They come together inside for a short distance as the ejaculatory duct, right? And then it goes through the urethra out the penis. So you should recognize these as seminal vesicle, prostate. But you know, I'm going to label it. You know this. You know me better than this now. I'm going to label that and ask you what it adds to the sperm. You know what I mean?
We need to get you covered.
So, you know, when you're going over these and you're naming them, just ask yourself, what is its function? Like, who cares about the seminal vesicle, right? I mean, why do I need to know the name of the seminal vesicle? Like, what is it adding to the male's reproductive system? You know, like, what is its function? And then don't forget that these are ureters, because I can't tell you how many people get these mixed up. And tell me that this is the ductus deferens.
Function again? For this
Yes, and remember the prostates also. Okay, so both of them add sugars, right? Seminal vesicle as fructose, but I probably just put like sugars or carbohydrates. You can squeeze in here if you want to do. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. And the prostate in the form of citric acid. Okay. That specificity, though, is really more for the lecture test, honestly. You know what I mean? PSA from the prostate, because that's so important also in helping us clinically recognize prostate cancer. Or just enlargement of the cells, because they're overworking, right? So you could also end up with PSA. It doesn't necessarily mean cancer, but something's going on with this tissue. Seminal plasmin, the antibiotic, right, that helps control UTIs and infections in the man's urethra. Enzymes that help to liquefy the sperm, right? Prostaglandins to cause the os of the cervix to open a little bit wider in the female. You know, so kind of just walk yourself through, you know what I mean? Those I know that that's kind of specific, but it's important, right? For the sperm. That's why if we cut the ductus deferens, there's no sperm, so you can't get pregnant in a vasectomy, but there's still fluid that comes out. Because the bulbourethral glands, which are not on this is the female. On the male one, you can't see them on that. When we pull off this piece, but I'm not going to pull it off on the male because then you lose the spermatic cord also on the model that's this one's partner, so to speak. So we'll look at that one too. We'll look at that one too.
You want to go get it? I think
So
it's
don't worry
over
about
there.
it. You know why?
Go
I used to
Yeah,
have to use this one when I didn't have these. I used to have to use this one.
Oh,
But now I have these and I like this much better.
Yeah.
Okay, oops, sorry. So, on this one, right, you're looking at this, which is kind of neat.
Right.
And what I like about this is that is the position of the uterus in your body, too. Kind of interesting, huh? Some women's tilt back a little bit more, and that can make it more difficult to get pregnant, too, interestingly enough, right? I mean, so there's some variation in this, you know, but that's a good, and you can see the entire vagina. So I like this model just, you know, for labeling the cervix. Sometimes it depends. If I end up asking you a lot of questions about other things on this one, I'll put this at another station to keep you moving. You know what I mean? So people don't clog all up. There's not too many questions on this one. So, I mean, you may see this or you may not because we're looking basically at the same thing right there. It's just that you have it in a little bit more context, I think, because it's not cut in half and you can see both ovaries too, right? So this is the clitoris. And on this one also, I should tell you, I use the numbers usually. You know, on the question will say, like, identify number 6. All right. Let's go out here. Remember, this is mons pubis, right? This fat pad over the pubic symphysis. Labia majora, labia minora, clitoris. Then this is the, ureter in the female. And so here's the bladder, flat, because it's not full. What are those folds inside called? Rugae, right? Just like in the stomach. Very cool. Right behind it, then, here is our uterus. And then this is the vagina. So here's the cervix, right, going in. Remember, right, that it looks like a little button on the outside, which you're not really seeing in this one either. It makes it look like it's open. But I just don't want that. You know, it's kind of deceiving. It looks kind of deceiving. So what we have on this one that we don't have on that other one either, the old one that's kind of pastel colors, you don't see rectum on that one. But you've got all of this on it, okay? So here we've got some rectum and some large intestine. So then just right here is the anus, right, the external sphincter. come back up here, and you're seeing some ligaments. Don't worry about those. I'm not going to ask you about that. But you see here the fallopian tube. 16 is a ligament, you guys, the ovarian ligament that helps suspend the ovary. Again, I'm not going to ask you about 16. So one of the models, and I can't remember, one of the female shows like 2 going to the ovary. It looks like there's 2 fallopian tubes, but one of those is the ligament for the ovary.
Oh, okay.
So here's the fallopian or uterine tube, and I'll put both words on the lab practical. And then this is the fimbriae, right? The finger-like projections of. Remember also on the fimbriae of the, fallopian tube, there's little cilia, right? And obviously the ovary. I think that's it on this. Oh, I don't know if I really wanted to be tricky, but I have so many other questions I could ask it. Like, this is the sacrum, right? This is the coccyx. Number 3 is the coccyx.
So I just was interested in
Yeah.
the sperm, like, traveling.
Yes.
So how does that...
Okay, so
Get
in the
fertilized.
female, well, the penis pretty much takes up this entire space. That's what I was saying, I mean, like, the length of the penis has evolved to fit this space, too, but also to try to get the sperm as close to the cervix as possible.
Right.
Right. So it gets released here in the vaginal canal, which also becomes the birth canal. I mean, this is the birth canal when we talk about that, too, right? It has to get through the os, that opening of the cervix, and then it has to get into, right, the uterine space and into a fallopian tube. All the while, right, this is all like kind of rough, not really rough, I shouldn't say, but it's got like little folds in it, and crypts like this more, and so some of them are getting lost on the sides and they don't know where they're going, they're just moving, right? They have to get into this space and they have to end up in the fallopian tube with the ovary that ovulated. Because a lot of them are going to go into the fallopian tube where there is no egg. Again, they're just taking the path of least resistance and moving forward, right? They don't know where they're going. They have to end up in the right fallopian tube also. And so fertilization, remember, occurs out here. And then the egg has to travel down the fallopian tube and only has a couple of days to implant before it'll die, if it does not implant. And so it's this lining, this endometrial lining of the uterus, right, where the blood builds up in anticipation of nutrients for that fertilized egg. If it doesn't burrow in, because here's what's really cool too, that we didn't really talk a lot about. When the egg burrows in and it starts to, it's no longer just a zygote, it starts to divide and become a ball of cells, which it's already doing as it travels down here, it starts to release its own hormones. And that's how your body knows you're pregnant. Human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, HCG, is what pregnancy tests are testing for. So it shows up in your blood a lot sooner. That's why a blood test is more accurate, and they can test you for pregnancy much earlier at a hospital or in a lab, because the concentration of HCG doesn't have to be as high as it has to be in your urine to detect it in your urine, which is what home pregnancy tests are, right? So they're getting really good. I mean, gosh, I think they're down to 7 days, aren't they now? After, if you suspect that you might be pregnant, 7 days after you think you ovulated, you could take a pregnancy test, and if the HCG levels are high enough in your urine, it's going to show up. You might have to do it again at like 10 days or 14 days. Really, it should be high enough that you can detect it, right? So if it doesn't burrow into that wall, because remember also luteinizing hormone, if it's doing its job, is going to keep the corpus luteum here where the egg released from, making progesterone. It burrows in and starts releasing HCG, which triggers your body to keep your progesterone up also. And that's what maintains the lining of the uterus. If your progesterone dips, you're going to have a period, because that's what sheds the lining of the uterus. So the only thing that we're not really seeing on our model, sorry, and I think maybe the pastel one to show it, I can't remember, does the pastel one, is it cut through the ovary? It's not, I can see it from here. Okay. So I have to show you a picture if I want to ask you questions about the inside of the ovary, which I probably won't. What I might do then is just tag an ovary on one of these, and ask you a question about oogenesis and that, the function of it. Remember, you don't have to walk me through all the stages or tell me the names, of the as it becomes an ovum, because it starts as a follicle. Yeah. Does that help you?